I should do if you never came back." And I, knowing that I had no right to awaken her with the sudden shock which the avowal of my own love would bring to her, sat silent, hardly daring to breathe. "You will come very often?" she asked. "Very often," I said. "Every day?" "Every day." "Oh," she sighed, "I am very happy. Come and see my hawks." She rose and took my hand again with a childlike innocence of possession, and we walked through the garden and fruit trees to a grassy lawn which was bordered by a brook. Over the lawn were scattered 15 or 20 stumps of trees, partially embedded in the grass, and upon all of these, except 2, sat falcons. They were attached to the stumps by thongs which were in turn fastened with steel rivets to their legs just above the talons. A little stream of pure spring water flowed in a winding course within easy distance of each perch. The birds set up a clamour when the girl appeared, but she went from one to another, caressing some, taking others for an instant upon her wrist, or stooping to adjust their jesses. "Are they not pretty?" she said. "See, here is a falcon gentil. We call it ignoble, because it takes the quarry in direct chase. This is a blue falcon. In falconry we call it noble, because it rises over the quarry, and wheeling drops upon it from above. This white bird is a gerfalcon from the north. It is also noble. Here is a merlin, and this tiercelet is a falcon herna." I asked her how she had learned the old language of falconry. She did not remember, but thought her father must have taught it to her when she was very young. Then she led me away and showed me the young falcons still in the nest. "They are termed niais in falconry," she explained. "A branchier is the young bird which is just able to leave the nest and hop from branch to branch. A young bird which has not yet moulted is called a sor, and a muet is a hawk which has moulted in captivity. When we catch a wild falcon which has changed its plumage, we term it a hagard. Raoul first taught me to dress a falcon. Shall I teach you how it is done?" She seated herself on the bank of the stream among the falcons, and I threw myself at her feet to listen. Then the Demoiselle held up one rosy-tipped finger and began very gravely. "First one must catch the falcon." "I am caught," I answered. She laughed very prettily and told me my dressage would perhaps be difficult, as I was noble. "I am already tamed," I replied, "jest and belled." She laughed, delighted. "Oh, my brave falcon, then you will return at my call?" "I am yours," I answered gravely. She sat silent for a moment. Then the colour heightened in her cheeks, and she held up her finger again, saying, "Listen, I wish to speak of falconry." "I listen, Countess Jeanne d'Ys." But again she fell into the reverie, and her eyes seemed fixed on something beyond the summer clouds. "Philip," she said at last. "Jeanne," I whispered. "That is all. That is what I wished," she sighed. "Philip and Jeanne." She held her hand toward me, and I touched it with my lips. "Win me," she said, but this time it was the body and soul which spoke in unison. After a while she began again. "Let us speak of falconry." "Begin," I replied. "We have caught the falcon." Then Jeanne d'Ys took my hand in both of hers and told me how with infinite patience the young falcon was taught to perch upon the wrist, how little by little it became used to the belled jesses and the chaperon à cornettes. "They must first have a good appetite," she said. "Then little by little I reduce their nourishment, which in falconry we call pas. When, after many nights have passed, au bloc, as these birds are now, I prevail upon the hagard to stay quietly on the wrist, then the bird is ready to be taught to come for its food. I fix the pas to the end of a thong or leurre, and teach the bird to come to me as soon as I begin to whirl the cord in circles about my head. At first I drop the pas when the falcon comes, and he eats the food on the ground. After a little he will learn to seize the lure in motion, as I whirl it around my head or drag it over the ground. After this it is easy to teach the falcon to strike at game, always remembering to faire courtoisie à l'oiseau, that is, to allow the bird to taste the quarry. A squeal from one of the falcons interrupted her, and she arose to adjust the longe which had become whipped around the block, but the bird still flapped its wings and screamed. "What is the matter?" she said. "Philip, can you see?" I looked around, and at first saw nothing to cause the commotion, which was now heightened by the screams and flapping of all the birds. Then my eye fell upon the flat rock beside the stream from which the girl had risen. A grey serpent was moving slowly across the surface of the boulder, and the eyes in its flat, triangular head sparkled like jet. "A couleuvre," she said quietly. "It is harmless, is it not?" I asked. She pointed to the black V-shaped figure on the neck. "It is certain death," she said. "It is a viper." We watched the reptile moving slowly over the smooth rock to where the sunlight fell in a broad, warm patch. I started forward to examine it, but she clung to my arm, crying, "Don't, Philip, I am afraid." "For me?" "For you, Philip. I love you." Then I took her in my arms and kissed her on the lips, but all I could say was Jeanne, Jeanne, Jeanne. And as she lay trembling on my breast, something struck my foot in the grass below, but I did not heed it. Then again something struck my ankle, and a sharp pain shot through me. I looked into the sweet face of Jeanne d'Ys and kissed her, and with all my strength lifted her in my arms and flung her from me. Then, bending, I tore the viper from my ankle and set my heel upon its head. I remember feeling weak and numb. I remember falling to the ground. Through my slowly glazing eyes I saw Jeanne's white face bending close to mine, and when the light in my eyes went out, I still felt her arms about my neck and her soft cheek against my drawn lips. When I opened my eyes, I looked around in terror. Jeanne was gone. I saw the stream and the flat rock. I saw the crushed viper in the grass beside me, but the hawks and blocks had disappeared. I sprang to my feet. The garden, the fruit trees, the drawbridge and the walled court were gone. I stared stupidly at a heap of crumbling ruins, ivy covered and grey, through which great trees had pushed their way. I crept forward, dragging my numbed foot, and as I moved, a falcon sailed from the tree tops among the ruins, and soaring, mounting in narrowing circles, faded and vanished in the clouds above. "Jeanne! Jeanne!" I cried, but my voice died on my lips, and I fell on my knees among the weeds. And as God willed it, I, not knowing, had fallen kneeling before a crumbling shrine carved in stone for our Mother of Sorrows. I saw the sad face of the Virgin wrought in the cold stone. I saw the cross and thorns at her feet, and beneath it I read, "Pray for the soul of the Demoiselle Jeanne d'Ys, who died in her youth for love of Philip, a stranger, A.D. 1573. But upon the icy slab lay a woman's glove, still warm and fragrant." The end of The Demoiselle d'Ys, from The King in Yellow by Robert W. Chambers.